I had a whole other script planned for this week, but we have to talk about Cassidy-Graham, which is getting closer and closer to passing, even though I said wouldn't. This is Healthcare Triage News. All right, Cassidy-Graham is one more attempt to pass and repeal and replace bill. In fact, the last attempt this year, because they're running out of time, for the Republican Congress. One of the big questions is, how does this bill differ from other bills? And we've covered some of the details before, but here's what you really need to know. This is not technically blowing up the whole thing. It keeps a lot of the money up front, although it might be a slightly bit less. And what it does is it says, instead of putting it into the ACA, we're going to give it to states in a pile, and they can either keep the ACA going if they want, or do something completely different. Some people like that because they think that it's federalism and it gives states the opportunity to do their own things. The problem is that even if that's true, the money's being reduced or shifted in ways that hurt a lot of states. So right now, states that have expanded Medicaid get more money because they're actually doing Medicaid. They're providing some good to their population, and they're getting reimbursed for it in some way. What this bill does is says, we don't care if you've expanded Medicaid or not, we're going to sort of spread the money all over and give it out equally to states according to some formula. Now, the way this formula works, it's hitting big populous states hard and being really good to states that are not like that. If that sounds like it's hurting mostly blue states and helping mostly red states, you're not totally wrong. It's also hurting some big states like Texas that even are red states, but lots of states are going to be hit by this, especially in the future because they start whittling down the rate at which this money or the block grant increases. There's also a problem because this flexibility allows some states to set up health insurance rules that violate a lot of the norms that people have come to like about the Affordable Care Act. If you've heard that it allows states to start treating you differently if you have pre-existing conditions, you've heard correctly. Supporters of the bill will argue that it won't prevent insurers from giving you insurance if you have a pre-existing condition, but what they can do is start charging you $1 gazillion for it. And to be honest, if they start charging me $300,000 a year for my ulcerative colitis, that's something I can't afford. It's telling me I can't have the insurance. I don't care about the semantics. If we start telling people that they're going to have to pay a ton more money if they have pre-existing conditions, then people on the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum, and arguably even in the middle class, will not be able to afford insurance even if they are sick. This is a real problem, and it's the thing that people are getting angry about. It's what Jimmy Kimmel was focused on a night or two ago on TV. It's the idea that we're not telling people that even if you're sick, we can guarantee you that you will have coverage that you can afford now and in the future. This bill might pass. The reason is because the Republicans are really desperate to have a win. They want to do something that shows they repealed and replaced the Affordable Care Act. They're not waiting for a CBO score. They don't know how many people this will remove coverage from. They don't know technically exactly how much this will cost or save in the future. There's so many specifics about this bill we don't know. They're moving ahead anyway because this has to be done by September 30th. I'm not even sure how this will get past the Senate parliamentarian. It might not, especially without a CBO report by which the parliamentarian can make decisions about whether this satisfies the rules of reconciliation. Regardless, it still looks like Senator Rand Paul's a no, Senator Collins is a no, possible Senators Murkowski or McCain are a no. If any three of them are a no, this thing is dead. This is arguably the most radical of the repeal and replace bills we've seen yet. It's going to drastically change the health insurance markets now and in the future. We haven't even gotten into what it does to Medicaid, which is converted into a block grant program and then shrink it down in the future. And we've covered that in previous episodes. So that's another thing for many people to get angry about. But regardless, this is a real thing. It has a real chance of happening, and I don't know if it's going to pass or not. But if it's going to, it has to be by September 30. Go pay attention. Healthcare Triage is funded in part by viewers like you through Patreon, a service that allows you to support the show through a monthly donation. Your support makes this show bigger and better. We'd especially like to thank Joe Sevitz and Sam. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Sam. More information can be found at patreon.com/healthcaretriage.